Okay. Looks like we're live on Twitch. And then let's go open up the YouTube chat. Actually, I can just put this over here. Okay, good morning, folks. I'm on here to let people know about the viewer rapid tournaments, which we run every weekend, and we're very early today. The tournaments don't start for a while, but I wasn't able to create the tournaments in advance, so I thought some people might think the tournaments were canceled. I don't know if it was a problem with my computer's cache or my browser or an actual problem on chess.com or something, but all day yesterday I wasn't able to create the tournaments. It wouldn't let me create new tournaments on chess.com. So I wanted, if possible, to make sure that the word got out that the tournaments are open and are happening this weekend when I was finally able to make them. So yeah, when I got up this morning I was able to make them, but that's not a lot of time for people to see that the tournaments are happening. Hey Charlie, what are you up to this Sunday? Hey Sweet Blues, hey Roshan. I'm just making my breakfast here. You know, this is basically just a 50-minute announcement stream. So I'm just sitting here making breakfast. There's not going to be commentary today, Oscar. Unfortunately. My partner has a shift at the hospital today. So I won't be able to do proper commentary. It would have been, Oscar. It was fun last week. And it'll be fun again some week in the future. Good morning, Crunchy. But yeah, today I've got all three kids. So I kind of timed it to give them a movie now. In order to make this announcement and get the tournament started for everybody. Here's a blitz game from yesterday. Or sorry, probably from Friday, because I don't think I played chess yesterday. That's great, Oscar. You annotated all your games? What does the computer think would happen if we played a move like h4, yar, h6? So we clamp e5, and now, if black does something silly, white's going to go trade, trade, yar, which looks silly as well. Now let's say black does something more combative. Computer says you can play g4 anyway? Is that correct? Yeah, have to castle. Pawn's attacked. G6, G5. You get something like this. Huh. Interesting. Okay, anyway. I played a simple move, because I'm a simple guy. Then I played another simple move. And another simple move. Knight d7, so far so simple. Bishop d3. This is a mistake. Okay. Good to know. Okay, so next time around I'll just play something like rook d1 and let black trade and play c5. And it'll be simple. That's fine. Now this move was a counter mistake from my opponent. And apparently this was a good choice. Now I could already play queen c7, but I castled first, figuring I would need my rooks. I can play you today, Jay, yeah. Now is a very good time to play. All of this is good for white. Queen back into b6, top move, good. Wow, h3 is the top move. Now I played a very fancy winning move, but I missed a much simpler winning move. That's too bad. And this is the best we have. Okay. Exactly, Crunchy. All right, Jay. You can send me a challenge if you like now. Maybe 3 plus 2, Jay? It's been a little while, Hockey Chess Dude, but probably not quite 5 years ago, because the dojo's been around for 5 years, and I don't think it was the very start of things. But I suppose it could have been 4 years ago, maybe. Really? Wow. I trained those blindfold simuls for a period of time, for maybe like 6 months. I was doing them, going from 4 or 5 games up till 10 or 11 games. It was very fun. For me. Probably less fun for the people playing in the simuls, because they have to wait a long time for my moves when I'm playing a bunch of games blindfolded. I felt kind of bad that it's probably a lot of sitting around for my opponents. But for me, it's a very fun and intense experience to be constantly trying to remember all the games. Absolutely, Sweet Blues. So Sweet Blues is asking, and sometimes I just read questions out loud, folks, because we're streaming on Twitch and YouTube. It makes more sense if everybody hears the question. Sweet Blues asks, any advice on how to get the patience to use your time for someone just starting playing classical chess? Right? So the answer to this depends on the player's level, partly, right? Sometimes it's very, very different for beginners what they would do with their time, if they've been playing chess. Sure. Either way, Jay. If you're rated more than 400 points away from me, which as I recall you are, then it doesn't really make any sense to make it rated, but I don't care too much. Sorry, so Sweet Blues question, right? So if somebody's more of a beginner, the answer might be different than for Sweet Blues, because sometimes a beginner doesn't, Jay, I'm just going to finish answering this one question from Sweet Blues, and then I'll click accept on your challenge. Sometimes a beginner doesn't know what to think about, and so they're, in a sense, very fast because they don't know what they should use their time on to think about, because they don't yet know a lot of chess strategy. Other times you get beginners who are so overwhelmed by all the possibilities that they need extreme amounts of time, even though they don't really know too much what they're thinking about. So the advice for a beginner would be more different, but I'm going to give advice for somebody near Sweet Blues in rating. And Sweet Blues is in the 1600 to 2000 bracket. They're rated just about 1800, so this is advice that would be most pertinent to people within like a couple hundred points of Sweet Blues. So somebody who's played a fair amount of rapid, right, and has a sense of chess, is not hanging pieces, has heard of some strategies, but has never before sat down and just sat in a game for hours and hours in the same game, right? So what to do to spend the time? So I think one of the first things there to do, Sweet Blues, is you can play your first game. Just use whatever time you feel like when you play your first classical game and see how much it was and see how much you had left. let's say for argument's sake that out of an hour and a half, you find that you used 15 minutes, as if you were playing a rapid 15-minute game. Or maybe you spend 18 minutes instead of 15, right? Because finally you've got a little extra time, but you don't use that much and you've got over an hour left. What I normally do is I make some goals step by step to use a little bit more time. But I generally try to improve at everything I try to improve at step by step, by little amounts. So if I used 18 minutes on the game, I might set a goal to use 20 minutes on my next 2 games. And then after that, I might try and play 3 games where my goal is to use 25 of my minutes, etc. Something like that, right? So I'm making an off-the-board goal just about my clock usage, right? Just this is how much time I want to use, something I can just check mathematically and see if I did it. When you've got that kind of goal, you can even just sit there and not think about anything just to make sure that you use the 25 minutes or whatever goal you've set for yourself. Which may seem like silly, like why am I sitting here just having my clock run down? But it's both showing your commitment to using the time and the fact that you're sitting there and you are in the game. You may discover that your brain starts thinking about your game. Even if you're sitting there thinking there's nothing to think about or you don't know what to think about or you'd be ready to make your move, just by having yourself sit there, who knows, maybe you'll start noticing some of the things that people, including you, would actually think about in that position. Then another thing you can do, Sweet Blues, is we can get the interaction between playing games and reviewing games. So when you review your games, you can play through the game and see if there are some interesting or important moments in the game that kind of decided who won or lost the game. Or whatever it is you happen to find about your game. I'm not going to get too deep into how to analyze your games now as a side question, but let's say you review your games, you think about it. Some of the things that you notice during that game, during the game analysis, could give you clues as to where to spend more time during your actual games when you play them, right? Like you might notice there were some critical moments that really could have decided the game where a bunch of pieces were attacked at the same time and, some series of captures happened, right? And so you want to go back to that. And so you notice I only spent 30 seconds on that move. Maybe the next time I find myself in a situation like that in a classical game, I'll try to spend 5 minutes just on that move where I notice suddenly that, the whole game might be on the line in a coming series of captures or calculations. So that could be it. Or it could just be something completely random. Other than that, it could be you play through your games and you find out that you play the opening badly and the other parts of the game better. Or you play the end game badly and other parts of the game better. Or whatever weakness it might be that you find, basically use that as something to look for and think about in your future games. Does that make sense? So whatever it is, you in my next game, I'll try and spend a little extra time on that, right? If it was that you keep choosing bad plans in the middle game, you say, well, I'm only using 20 minutes out of my hour and a half. When I think we're at the end of the opening, I'm going to just have a nice calm think for 5 or 10 minutes and just kind of think what I think the plan options are for my side, right? All right, Ranga, listened to the junior draft on the bike ride yesterday and it made me think that maybe you guys should have different ways to score points wins. You could keep it how it is with the overall average rating, or you could look at most points gained in the year, or you could look at it by starting your top 6 players or something. That was my idea, Ranga. I suggested to Jesse and Kostya that we have a thing where because our roster is ever expanding by drafting more people every year, we could also have a thing where each year after we draft, we say which players count for us this year. And then that means you could pick prospects and they wouldn't tank your average rating. But if they eventually got good, you could sub them in as you get good. And then there's also a decision-making process about which of your players you think are going to be best that year. Do you think that, Kamer is going to overtake Prague, or do you think that Prague's going to stay ahead of Kamer? I mean, that's too obvious. You would always keep both of them in, but, let's say, Mishra versus Sadwani, right? You could ask yourself, is Mishra going to surpass Sadwani this year? Do I put Mishra in as one of my top 6 who actually count for this year? or do I stick with Sidwani? That's what I suggested. I didn't yet convince Jesse or Kosti about that idea, but I do think that's probably a good idea at some point. And yeah, I know if I always draft 10-year-olds, the team will never have a good average rating, because even if they improve a lot, the next picks will bring it back down. Rose is great, MG Weirdo. I agree. All right. Let's play this game with Jay, a.k.a. Danil Dubov, international Russian grandmaster from India. Hang on, it's not making any clicking sound for me, and I like when it makes a clicking sound. Maybe if I reload it, the clicking will start again. There we go. Hey, Eric, I only organize viewer arenas on chess.com myself, yeah. Okay, so far we've got a pretty solid position here. Fairly symmetrical, nothing too exciting yet, I guess. I agree, that's a good move. Let me just bring my queen out, see what Dubov thinks of that. There we go. I figured both our queens would end up staring at each other over here this game. I had that feeling since a while ago. If I take with bishop, he can play e4. If I take with knight, I won't be able to play e5. So do I want the game really slow or a little more oomph? I think if I let him play e4, I'm just a little bit worse immediately, huh? So I will play defensively here on this one. Okay, and I know this theory that it's good to trade these knights if I can. Hang on. Okay, this is okay. Jay plays too quickly, as you can see. In all formats, Jay plays very quickly. And Jay could use 3 minutes, because when Jay plays classical games, Jay spends more than 3 minutes. But there you are. We're going to go for this break over here. So now it's a French defense. I feel pretty safe with a couple pieces traded, but I do have this g6 move, which weakens the king side. Hi, Be Conquered. By the way, folks, join the tournaments. They're starting in 15 minutes. I don't know if people have been joining. But there are the links for those in Twitch. Okay, yeah, so this move I should have played last move. I should have traded the queens as soon as we got into this French structure, because and Jay should have played queen c2 last move, in my opinion, right here. Once white's played e5, the queens really favor white, and the endgame favors white a lot less. So let's see, could white play c4 if I mess around here? Maybe. grab some space over here with this pawn. It's not a normal move, but I'm going to give it a shot. And that response was just too fast, right? I spent 30 seconds, came up with a whole idea. Jay played this in 3 seconds in response. So didn't really look at my move seriously enough. And now this looks like a problem for white, right? That I'm getting this pawn break and this space here. I want to move my rook off of that. Bishop on g2. You might need to take care of your school this time, Luke. Sorry about it. I'm going to put my bishop here and centralize my king just to be more ready for whatever comes next or later. I'm threatening to use the c file, but actually maybe the eventual plan for black is to... Well, never mind. We'll switch to this, I guess. I was going to say I think the eventual plan might be on this file here for black. Let's just nail down this pawn and beat up on it. So I was thinking even though I put my rook on c8, then maybe the main plan... Well, I've got 30 seconds. I can't really explain the main plan too well, but for any 2,000 plus in the audience, I think maybe I should have, as my main plan, played c4, kicked the knight back, and then b5. Oh god, c3 was just winning there with rook b1. But I only have 20 seconds, so I'm playing simplistic moves. Okay, better late than never. I still have c3 like before, right? Hi, Courtney. You are very welcome. Well, in the end, Jay used all their time, so that's good. Have a good day, Courtney. This is cool, isn't it? I can do this. To queen the pawn. Good game, Jay. All right, let's see how our tournaments are going. We need one more player in the 1700 plus group. Where's the clubs? Send this link to folks over on YouTube. There you go. Good game, Jay. Very good game. Let's see how our other groups are doing, if they've got enough players under 1,300. Has not enough players. Need more players. Is today Sunday? It sure is, Valkyrie. Yeah. Who wants to play some chess today? Anybody there looking for either a game or a tournament? No, join your tournament, Jay. Stick with your section and see who joins. It is Bronstein Larson, yeah. Under 1,300, up to 3 players. Just needs one more. Great. Tournament starts in about 9 minutes, I think, folks. About 9 minutes. 3 sections. You can play a single game. You don't have to play 3 hours. You don't even have to play 1 hour. You can play one game, or you can play for a while if you like. I was really tempted to trade bishops here. You know, I'm really risking hanging my bishop by miscalculating something at some point. It's very risky. There you go. I hung a piece. As predicted. Ay, ay, ay. That was just atrocious. D5 was a great move. I really blundered into that one. Holy hell. Well, these pawns are not going to hold up against the bishop. Yeah.
You know what we're bringing yet?
No.
Can you come down here and help me?
Today avec quoi, chérie?
I don't know, bringing something we can't. We have
Ok. Attends 2 minutes, ok? Je t'entends. Je t'entends. Oh, this is ridiculously bad. Well, yeah, I mean, I hung a piece. I tried to get a pawn or two for it, and my opponent played some good moves in response. This is going to hurt. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Oh. Oh. You should not buy chess base, Jay. Doesn't it cost like $200 or so? Just use Chess Dojo. Okay, terrible game. But by me, not terrible game to my opponent. They played very well. Um, I don't think they had a very difficult time of that particular game. Yeah, of course you can, King Charles Cap. Um, so terrible game, not in a bad mannering or whatevering way, but very good, King Charles Cav. Yeah. So we need one more player in the 13 to 1700 group. So there's 3 minutes to go. If you're somewhere between 13 and 1700, for example, like you, Jay, maybe you could join that group. Or just Aldo, who's in the wrong group, could join that group. We've got enough players under 1300, so that's great. So that tournament is holding for sure. Let's check 1700 plus. Yep, 1700 plus looks good. Again, we've got a few 1600s in the 1700 plus. Nguyen Evan, Grand Minor, got a light. You could join the 13 to 1700 tournament, and then that tournament would actually hold, and you'd be playing people of your rating throughout. So We've got 4 people who could be in 13 to 1700 and are registered in 1700 plus or under 1300. If at least one of you could please switch to the correct section so that the 13 to 1700 tournament actually happens, that'd be very nice. I don't have time to play another game right now, Kaushik, sorry. There we go, 4th player, thank you. Oh no, 4th player's in the wrong section. I figured it out. All right, we still need a 4th person for the 13 to 1700 group. 13 to 1700 group. One more player, please. So, just Aldo, if you can hear me. You'd be a great person to keep the 13 to 1700 group happening. Nguyen Evan, if you are tier limit, you can certainly play in the 1700 plus if you want. It won't be a problem for you. I'm just hoping that somebody will make the 13 to 1700 group hold. We need one more player there. And so Grand Minor or God of Light or someone could maybe switch over there so that they get a tournament. It would be very, very nice for the people in the 13 to 1700 group whose tournament is otherwise going to be canceled. So if one person could head over there. There we go. We got the 4th. Thank you. Thank you, somebody. Kaylin, I've never seen you lose 7 in a row before. Ay, ay, ay. Playing slower reduces blunders? It does, Kaylin. It does. And you do have the legendary Daniel Dubov. And we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players now. Woo! Okay. Awesome. Very kind of you, Tournament. You can always switch back to the section you want, Tournament. You should be able to join the 1700 plus group at any time in the next 3 hours if you like. I didn't mean to give you any flack about your rating. I was just trying to make sure the people between 13 to 1700 did get a tournament. So I was just making an announcement that, if someone could switch, it would be nice. So with that, everybody, I wish you all a great day. Enjoy your tournaments. Have fun. All 3 tournaments have held. And I am going to go take care of kid stuff. All right. And be back online tomorrow.